He told her this a few times, truthfully. Dissatisfaction felt more like a personal failing, a direct indication of internal malfunctioning, which he should focus on privately correcting. Instead, he vaguely knew, he was waiting for Michelle, or some combination of Michelle and the world, to endure and overpower his negativity, to be the solution in which he would irreversibly, untraceably, dissolve. He sipped his wine, thinking about how Michael Jackson had been using 10 to 40 Xanax per night, according to the internet, before he died last summer. Paul distractedly scooted his chair toward Michelle and, with unclear purpose, touched her shoulder, tentative and reckless as a child petting a large dog looking elsewhere. Expecting the bored expression of 10 minutes ago, when they'd looked at each other non-committally as she returned to her chair with another drink, Paul was surprised by Michelle's severely, actively, almost seethingly depressed expression. Michelle's face reddened antagonistically, in reflexive defense, it seemed, because then she appeared frustrated and a little confused, then shy and embarrassed. Paul asked if she wanted to leave soon. Michelle hesitated, then asked if that was what Paul wanted. "I don't know. Are you hungry?" "Not really. Are you?" "I don't know," said Paul. "I would eat somewhere." One night, months ago, they had sat on a curb on Lafayette Street to continue an argument in a resting position. Paul had become distracted by Michelle's calm, intelligent demeanor and had begun to forget why they were arguing, even while speaking in an agitated voice, as he became fixated with increasing appreciation on how Michelle liked him enough to not simply leave and never see him again, which she could do, which anyone could always do, Paul had thought, suddenly intrigued by the concept of gratitude. "Do you want to eat at the green table?" "If that's what you want," said Michelle. "Okay. When do you want to leave?" "After I finish this glass of wine." "Okay," said Paul, and scooted his chair halfway to where it had been. "I'm going to introduce Kyle to someone. I'll be back in like 5 minutes. Paul couldn't find Kyle, 19, or Kyle's girlfriend, Gabby, 28, his suite mates in an apartment off the Graham L train stop in Brooklyn, and was returning to Michelle when he realized he'd walked past Kyle, standing drunkenly alone in a dense area of people, as if at a concert. After some indecision, briefly motionless, Paul turned around and asked if Kyle wanted to meet Tracy. Kyle nodded and followed Paul outside the gallery to a wide hallway where 6 people, including Tracy, described earlier by Kyle as really hot, by Paul as her blog gets a lot of hits, shook hands with one another. Paul grinned uncomfortably as he stared at one person, then another, thinking he had absolutely nothing to say, except maybe what he was currently thinking, which didn't seem appropriate, and also kept changing. He noticed Michelle sitting alone, against a wall, around 30 feet away. The front of his head felt extraneous and suctioned as a plastic bag, stuck there in a wind as he walked to her, aware she had probably seen him grinning at Tracy, and asked if she wanted to go now. "Do you?" said Michelle, not standing. "Yeah," said Paul, looking toward the gallery. "You can talk to Kyle more if you want." "I don't want to," said Paul. "It seems like you do." "I don't," said Paul, who viewed friends mostly as means to girlfriends, he knew, contrary to Michelle, who valued them as ends. They'd discussed this a few times and concluded, to some degree, that Paul had his writing, Michelle her friends. "I'm just going to say bye to him. I'll be right back." When he couldn't find Kyle in the hallway, he walked robotically into the dark, crowded gallery, thinking, lost in the world, in a precariously near-earnest tone. Kyle was standing with a group of people in a sideways manner that didn't clearly indicate if he knew them or not. He looked at Paul with an expression like he was thinking what to say, then like he was going to insult Paul, then less like he'd chosen to refrain, then like he'd lost interest. "I think